good afternoon. It's 12 midday on 3FM 92.7. Welcome to the bulletin. Coming up this afternoon, High Court grants NPP Bono Regional Chairman Kwame Bafo, popularly known as Abronye, bail in the sum of 100,000 cedis, with two sureties to be justified. Also in the bulletin, Court of Appeal orders Bank of Ghana to restore GN Savings and Loans license and return seized assets with immediate effect. And government postpones planned evacuation of Ghanaians from South Africa following recent xenophobic attacks in parts of the country. Later on, we tell you why residents of Adaklu, Helekwe, in the Adaklu districts of the Volta region are devastated following a mudslide that occurred Wednesday night. Details of these and more in the next 30 minutes. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. Stay with us. Many thanks for joining us. We're live on our various social media platforms on Facebook, 3FM927, Instagram, 3FM927, X, 3FM927, TikTok, 3FM927. We're also streaming live on our page on YouTube, 3FM927. Join us and be a part of the bulletin. Let's begin from the Volta region this afternoon because residents of Adaklu, Helekwe, in the Adaklu districts of the Volta region have been left devastated following a mudslide incident that occurred Wednesday night. The incident has completely destroyed a basic school and several other structures at the foot of the Adaklu mountain. Correspondent Faisal Abdul Idrisu joins us with an update on it. Faisal, thanks for your time this morning. What is the current situation on the ground and what level of destruction are we talking about?
Yes, so the current situation on the ground is a devastating one. I can see a good number of vehicles. So far, I'm told there are 3 vehicles that have been damaged. There are vehicles parked in the premises of the school, including the school bus. Some of the structures, that is, residential properties, one in particular has been destroyed entirely. The school's canteen has been taken over by the mud. In fact, more than 4 acres of land that belongs to the school has been taken over by a heap of mud and heavy stones. It's difficult navigating or even walking through the place. That's exactly how things look like as I speak to you, Grace. This incident, we are told, happened last night. You know, there was raining whole and yesterday, somewhere between 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. In fact, in my area, it lasted till somewhere around 8 p.m. And it was within this period that we are told that they heard a loud noise from the Adaklu mountain. And then within a few minutes, they started seeing rocks, very heavy ones, falling off from the top and accompanied by mud. If you are here and have a look at it, it actually created a path all the way from the top of the mountain down to the foot of the mountain where these structures, particularly the school, is situated.
Right. Have there been any reports of casualties or displaced residents, and what immediate support are the affected families receiving or asking for?
2 individuals were trapped in one of the buildings, the very one that has collapsed entirely yesterday. I am told they are receiving treatment at the whole teaching hospital. One, I am told the younger person had his elbow fractured. The woman, I'm also told, had numbness all over from her hip to the toes, but they are in a condition that is quite stable. And they are very optimistic that they are fine, except that they are undergoing treatment. Beyond that, there haven't been any other casualty except the 2 people who were trapped, and then the damages caused to the vehicles and the school properties here in Adaklu, Helekwe.
And local authorities and NADMO, what are they doing about this?
Yes, NADMO has been here since dawn. Personnel from the Ghana National Fire Service have been here. What we are saying is that the place now is a danger zone, and so they have decided to evacuate people from the area. The school has also been asked to be closed down until a further assessment of the place is done. The DCE has also been here telling us that this is the third time an incident of the sort is happening, and that in 2017, one other community experienced that. These are communities just at the foot of the Akru Mountain. If you know that Akru Mountain well, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that as local authorities, they will ensure that the geological survey department comes in and tell them what to do going forward from a technical perspective. Then from the perspective of humanitarian issues, they are ensuring that the residents around here do not go in close to the place. People who have farms at the foot of the mountain have been asked to stay away from their farms until further notice.
All right.
The DC with authorities telling us that we are doing everything possible to ensure that people who are close by are given a safe distance to the incident scene until they are able to establish the way forward.
Okay. Faisal, thank you for bringing us those updates. Faisal Abdul-Idrisu, our correspondent in the Volta region. Let's take a flight to South Africa. And if you were expecting any of your relatives there to have joined you maybe today or tomorrow, you might have to wait for a while because the government of Ghana has postponed the evacuation of the first batch of Ghanaians in South Africa who are fleeing the xenophobic attacks in that country. The initial number of 300 has increased to more than 800 Ghanaians who have registered with Ghana's High Commission in Pretoria, seeking to be evacuated. Government in a statement indicated that considering numbers involved in the South African legal conditions that have to be met, the exercise has been postponed until further notice. The government of Ghana assures nationals in South Africa that best efforts are being pursued to ensure their safe return home. Let's connect with our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Martin Esiedudate, who's been monitoring this for us. Martin, what else do we know about this and why the first batch did not come?
Thank you, Grace. Good afternoon to our listeners. Well, information is still a bit scanty, and this is because as of now, government has just, in their statement they released this morning, indicated that they have to go through what they described as mandatory passenger screening, multi-institutional coordination, and flight permits. Now, these three things, according to government, are called evacuation conditions. So they need to meet these conditions before the first flight can take off from South Africa. And the surprising issue is that maybe these should have been done before the public was made aware that the first batch of 300 are going to be coming home or are going to be evacuated from South Africa. So based on the statement and our sources in the other ministry, they say that they are expediting these actions because they want to enhance these pre-evacuation conditions, and senior government officials from both sides, that is Ghana and South Africa, are actively engaged to ensure that this evacuation is done according to the laws of South Africa and the laws of the Vienna Convention about people who want to move from another country where the reason for their movement is because of security concerns. So the government officials are working to ensure that this is done expeditiously. So as we speak, no specific new date has been given, but it looks as though the earlier 300 that we're all expecting to arrive today may not happen, and we do not know when that is going to be happening.
Right, Martin, the release from the ministry says the number has increased from 300 to 800, a 500 individuals difference. What does it say about the preparedness of Ghanaians to come home, or even about the xenophobic attack in South Africa?
Yes, Grace, so it brings even into question the fact that then all of this should have been done on the quiet or before the first initial 300 was announced. So in the wake of the fresh xenophobic attacks, government, our embassy in Pretoria announced that any Ghanaian who is under threat because of the xenophobic attack should register. as we speak, we do know on authority that about 15,000 Ghanaians are living in South Africa. Out of that number, the initial 300 that registered were the ones that government had planned to come with. But it looks as though the recent attacks are increasing. The demonstrations and rallies by South Africans against African nationals is spreading from one state to the other. So people who ordinarily may not have been concerned are also raising their alertness to the Pretoria mission. So it means that the number, according to government, has increased, was expected. So they knew that, well, the original 300 had increased to 800. That's what we are told. So it then again tells us that the first flight that had been chartered to bring them home, a different one had to also be looked for. And it changes the dynamics because the numbers have gone up. And you can't leave anyone behind.
Right.
The information we also have is that one Ghanaian who probably was not aware of the fact that these changes have occurred was at the airport looking for which flight was carrying people to Ghana. And it turns out that when a few South African journalists saw him, they interviewed him, and he said he was there as a Ghanaian to join the flight back to Ghana, but couldn't see anything. So I'm told that video is being shared in South Africa, and people are more or less mocking or making fun of that particular situation or incident. But we do also know that it is not only Ghanaians that are being attacked. Other African nationals who are being attacked may want to take advantage of this Ghanaian opportunity. So that is why the screening, we are told, is important. So we do not have other African nationals joining this Ghanaian team to come. A bit more, it is still sketchy, but when we do get clearer details, Grace will bring it to our
Absolutely.
listeners.
Martin, thank you for bringing us those details. Martin Esedudate, our foreign affairs correspondent, updating us on that postponement of the evacuation of some Ghanaians from South Africa. Government says that apart from the 300 that is originally registered, some 500 of Ghanaians have also added up to the number, making it 800. And so they have to go through some other checks and make preparations for some other things before they are able to bring them back into the country. When government is able to, and we have details, we'll definitely furnish you with the fresh details that we have in connection with that. But this is the media news on 3FM 92.7. And family of Charles Henry Emisa, the young engineer who died in February after being turned away from 3 public hospitals in a single night, has filed a suit at the High Court of Justice in Accra, naming 11 defendants and seeking 20 million Ghana cedis in general damages. There's more in this news desk report.
The writ of summons issued on May 14, 2026 under the hand of Chief Justice Bafoboni and filed by Dankwa and Associates names Ghana Police Hospital, Greater Accra Regional Hospital and Kolebu Teaching Hospital as the first, second and third defendant respectively. Also named are 4 doctors and 3 nurses who were on duty across the 3 facilities on the night of the tragedy, as well as the Attorney General representing the state's institutional liability. The plaintiff is Dr. Matilda Emisa, a medical doctor and sister of the deceased. The action comes weeks after a ministerial commission of inquiry established by the Minister of Health on February 4th.
Well, Deborah Abba-Mensah's reports there will bring you a lot more on this in our subsequent bulletins. We know that the Public Account Committee has referred the procurement director at the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts and Bella Selassie Amavo to the Attorney General for possible prosecution over the use of sole sourcing in the award of 3 contracts. The contract, including the renovation of office space, reportedly exceeded the 200,000 cedis threshold required under the Public Procurement Act, yet were not subjected to competitive tendering or public advertisement. The committee says the procurement process breached provisions of the law governing public procurement. Let's listen to that.
The auditors are saying that there was procedural breaches of the Public Procurement Act, and that you entered into 3 contracts. These contracts for works above, and you asked for, it was the request for quotation threshold of 200,000, and the ministry failed to use the appropriate method of procurement of these contracts. Yes, usually a request of quotation goes with approval with the head of entity. So in the time, the spur of the moment, the rush, there was an oversight, and then that happened. You say there was an oversight. What do you mean? That you did not go through the head of entity? No, we went through the head of entity, but we were required to advertise. And you did not advertise? Yes, please. And you call this an oversight. What has become of this contract as we speak, madam? They've been executed. It has to do with the renovation of the office space, which were in a very bad condition. So the fact that it was in a bad condition meant you had to sidestep the procurement? No, Madam Chair. Yes.
Infraction will be referred to Attorney General's Department for prosecution because we have breached the law, and then we are referring this matter to Attorney General.
Meanwhile, the Minister, Agyemang Agyemang, has urged government to increase budgetary allocation to the Roads Ministry for the rehabilitation of roads leading to tourist sites across the country. She says the move can help boost local tourism and increase revenue generation.
We can see the work that's been doing in the road sector, and I'm sure that if it continues at that pace, we should be able to address those concerns. I wish that the ministry is given budget big enough for us to do the roads to at least the tourist sites that directly are under the ministry. Unfortunately, that is not what is done. Ministry of Roads gets the budget to improve on the roads, and it is what it is. But we will continue lobbying as all others are doing. I lobby for Katu South, and I lobby also for the ministry, and I'm hoping that it is done. When the roads to the tourist sites are improved, that will generate more income for the country so that we can even diversify how we use that money that has come into the national kitty. Because as bad as it is, we all know how much we contribute to the GDP. So imagine if we invest a little bit more in the sector, what that would in turn bring.
Well, that was the Tourism Minister, Agyemang Agyemang there. You're listening to the media news on 3FM 92.7. Let us now take a ride to the court. And the NPP Bono Regional Chairman, Kwame Bafu, also known as Abronye, has been granted a 100,000 cedi bail with two sureties to be justified by the Accra High Court. As part of the bail conditions, he is to submit his travel document and report to the police CID every fortnight. The NPP official was rearrested on Wednesday, May 13, 2026, over allegations of misinformation and offensive public statements. This was weeks after being granted bail in connection with the same matter. Abronya DC was first arrested on Monday, April 13, following allegations of offensive conduct, false publication, and statements considered likely to incite fear and panic among members of the public. Let's now connect. Okay, well, we'll bring in our court correspondent shortly, but let's listen to his lawyers.
In the case of Abronye, even the facts did not even fit the crime. I felt that the facts before which he is arraigned before the court clearly did not even warrant the institution of criminal proceedings. You see, if you examine the charge sheet carefully, you notice that the complaint of the police was about the derogatory nature of the words used. If it is about derogatory nature or abusive nature of words used, and a cause of action lies in the civil realm for defamation. It ought not to be a basis for the institution of criminal proceedings. I think there's been a gross abuse of Section 207 and 208 by this government, and it's all because they just want to muzzle people and prevent a free expression of views and all. And that, for me, is very, very reprehensible, and all right-thinking members of society ought to really speak against it, and the government ought to put a stop to it. It militates against our democracy.
Is it your view that whatever is happening to the Bono Regional Chairman is because of him as a person, seeing that, I mean, he's been in and out of remand, or this is not the first time we're hearing of incidents like, do you think he's being singled out?
Well, clearly it's an attempt to shut him up, to ensure that his right to free expression is curtailed, is unnecessarily curtailed. And I think that is unhealthy for our democracy. As I said, yes, no matter the expression of views, no matter how reprehensible those views are to you or offensive that they seem to you, it is only when they occasion a breach of the peace or they disturb the public peace that a person may be arraigned under section 207 and 208. So you ought to examine the facts of the case adduced before the court clearly, and you see that there was absolutely no breach of the peace whatsoever alleged by the police, and that's very, very material.
The tension is high already. I think yesterday you saw the Peace Council issue a statement that acknowledged that the tension is high. Why is the tension high? The tension is high because every well-meaning member of the Ghanaian society can see that the government of the day is using sections 207 and 208 to suppress dissenting views. That is what is raising the tensions, because there have been many other instances in which very senior people on the NDC side, including the current president himself, made comments about the judiciary, and you didn't see 207, 208 being applied in this manner. It is those things that are heightening the tension. And it is that tension that I think the Peace Council is calling on the authorities to try to rein in by putting a stop to this practice that they are embarking upon.
Thank you very much.
I think, Council, but you as a leading member of the party, what are you saying to the party grassroots to try and douse this seeming tension?
What we are saying to the authorities who are doing the intimidation is that they should stop the intimidation. They should stop the abuse of 207 and 208. If they do that, there will be no trigger for the tensions that are rising.
Right, let's now connect with our court correspondent, Lord Edu Asare. Lord, you have been in court the whole morning. What transpired in court today?
Okay, great. So basically, using yesterday as a background or reference, you recall that yesterday when the lawyers of Abranya DC sought to move the bill application, the Attorney General indicated that they needed a brief adjournment to file a response to counter that bill application. Well, today when the case was called, the court asked the parties whether they have been served, which is the NPP side, and then Kujapon Nkrumah, he spoke on behalf of the NPP today, indicated that they still not been served with that response from the AG's office. And then the Deputy Attorney General, who represented the prosecution today, indicated that they still did not file any response at all. And so in light of that, the court then directed that the defense lawyers, or the applicants, I should say, move the bill application. So Kujapon Nkrumah moved the bill application, prayed for the court to grant the NPP Bono Regional Chairman bill. Hearing that application, the Deputy Attorney General, Dr. Justice Ramsay, he did not oppose to the bill application, and so the court then granted Abranya the 100,000 cedis bail with two sureties to be justified. He is to report to the police CID every fortnight. He is supposed to deposit his travel documents to the court registrar and only travel outside the jurisdiction with the express permission from the court registrar. Now, like we heard from the General Secretary of the party, they have indicated or served notice that they're going to file a petition against the Circuit Court judge who is presiding over the matter of Abranya DC. They, among other things, have indicated that he has taken a stand. It appears he's being partial, and so it wouldn't be proper for him to still preside over the matter. Now, one thing that they also said regarding today's proceedings was that if the prosecution knew that they were not going to oppose the application, there was no need for them to ask for an adjournment yesterday, because then it now contributed to another delay in the matter against Abranya, and for him to stay another day in the custody of the BNI. And Grace, this is where we are right now with the case. And a position I've held is that the charges preferred against Abranya, which is offensive conduct conducive to the breach of peace, and the publication of false news, are basically misdemeanor charges, which should not cause him to be in custody for this long. If anything, I thought it should have been granted bail a long time ago.
Right.
And regarding the derogatory comments which he's alleged to have made against the judge, it can be taken on as defamation and essentially a civil matter.
Lord, we also know that the Court of Appeal has, by unanimous decision, restored the license of GN Savings and Loans Company Limited. Talk to us about this.
Yes, Grace. You recall that GN Savings and Loans have been in court
since 2024. Now, you know that after they got reclassified from GN Bank into the GN Savings and Loans, their license won for a number of reasons, including failing to meet the capital requirements that is needed for a savings and loans company. Now, they went to the High Court to challenge the revocation of the license, and then the High Court upheld the revocation. Now, they escalated the matter to the Court of Appeal, and so today, in the
Lord, I'm afraid we have to end the conversation here because your line keeps breaking. But we can listen to Dr. Papakwesi Ndum as well as the lawyers for GN Group after the hearing.
What will be your immediate reaction?
First, let the council say something. Well, so the Court of Appeal said the decision that the Bank of Ghana took to the license was wrong. So they ordered the bank to reinstate the license. The receiver is now in charge of the bank and all its assets. The receiver was also ordered to hand over all the assets to the bank, to the bank. And the management also will return back to the bank immediately. So we will take the necessary steps to get a judgment and force it.
What will be the next steps after this?
Well, the next steps is that we need to file the entry of judgment and then receive. So that we will the court processes to get a judgment.
Well, it's been a give thanks to Almighty for keeping us healthy enough to be where we are, because this has been a very, very tough, very difficult time that we have gone through. It's just unimaginable. There's a lot to say, but not today. At an appropriate time, we will hold a press conference to go through what we have experienced and the difficulties moving forward. What I want to say also.
Dr. Papakwesi Ndum there, but we apologize for that poor quality of sound. We'll bring you a full story in our subsequent bulletins. We also know Parliament is resuming today after a more than 2 months recess. Let's quickly connect with my colleague Noble Crosby on whether the House has begun business for today.
Also, the mid-year budget review will also be one of the biggest moments of the meeting. It will offer government the chance to update Parliament on revenue, expenditure, there's debt, inflation, spending, and all of this is going on after the IMF program transition. So several other bills are also expected. We'll be watching several other bills. There's also the interstate succession bill. We'll also be looking at it. The community service bill, we understand, will be looked at. The community service bill, we understand, will be looked at as well. There are also other things that we're looking at for this session of Parliament. Already we see some members of Parliament around. They'll be focused also on governance and accountability. And the expected conduct of the Public Officers Bill, or the Code of Conduct Framework, we understand will likely raise questions around asset declaration, conflict of interest, ethical conduct in public office. Already, the Minority Chief Whip, I should tell you, Roxanne Nelson Afemekpo, he has indicated that Parliament will consider governance, justice, security, transport, and energy sector reforms, and including, of course, the Community Service Bill, like we've already mentioned, the National Identity Register amendments, prison parole regulations. There's also security coordination legislation and the Code of Conduct. All of these will be looked at. One other key thing to mention is the Economic and Organized Crime Office Amendment Bill. It will be watched for what it proposes on economic crime. Again, on assets declaration, asset recovery, and then anti-corruption bill. The Public Tribunal bill is another sensitive one that is likely to come up during this session, especially if it is linked to faster prosecution of illegal mining and other public interest offenses. I should also let you know that for Parliament beginning right now, in a few moments, the minority is expected to raise concerns about recent arrests, free speech, alleged political intimidation. Now, this issue could serve...
So that was my colleague Noble Crosby, and briefing us on the return of Parliament, or Parliament resuming today after a more than 2 months recess. We'll bring you more on what the business of the House is going to be today, especially on Ghana's exits at the IMF, as well as the issues of free speech that will be raised by the minority. But that's it for the midday news on 3FM 92.7. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. Many thanks for joining us. Log on to 3news.com and get some more stories. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. Also coming up, economist Professor Godfred Bokpin warns Ghana could return to the IMF by 2033 if deep-seated structural economic challenges are not resolved.
The first major economic decision Ghana took right after the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was to surrender our birthright to the IMF. And since then, we have been regular and predictable.
Plus, Chief Executive of Axis Pension Trust, Efriye Owari, is proposing policy measures including government-backed incentives and merchant contributions to deepen pension penetration within Ghana's informal sector. We'll bring you details of our headlines and other stories shortly. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. Economist and Professor of Finance at the University of Ghana, Godfred Bokpin, has warned that Ghana could find itself under another IMF program by 2033 if successive governments fail to address the country's persistent structural economic weaknesses. Speaking at the 2026 Axis Pension Trust Pension Strategy Conference, Professor Bokpin said Ghana's recurring economic crisis continue to mirror the same conditions that led to the previous IMF interventions dating back to the era of Kwame Nkrumah, stressing that trend analysis suggests the country risks repeating its historical cycle of debt distress, fiscal instability, and balance of payment challenges unless bold reforms are undertaken.
Dr. Kwame Nkrumah is not mentioned in the literature as having gone to the IMF because after the program was approved, his government was overthrown. So the first major economic decision Ghana took right after the overthrow of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah was to surrender our birthright to the IMF. And since then, we have been regular and predictable. If you get to know, the fund also, they do the analysis. They know when we should be arriving. And I'll tell you an example. So 2022, in fact, the optimal time, and let me say this also, sometimes when you know your problem and you see the symptoms coming, it's better you run to the doctor early than say, oh, it will go, oh, this one, it will go. So sometimes because we don't recognize the optimal time to go to the IMF, a month delay, a year's delay tend to cost us so much. And that was essentially what we experienced in 2022. The optimal time for Ghana to have gone to the IMF was the third quarter of 2021, and we said it.
And that was economist and professor of finance at the University of Ghana, Godfrey Bokpin. Meanwhile, Chief Executive Officer of Axis Pension Trust, Efriye Owari, is proposing policy measures including government-backed incentives and matching contributions to deepen pension penetration within Ghana's informal sector. He argues that current market realities make it commercially unattractive for pension providers to aggressively target the segment. Speaking to the media on the sidelines of the 2026 Axis Pension Trust Pension Strategy Conference, Efriye Owari said pension operators face significantly higher costs in bridging or bringing informal sector workers onto pension schemes compared to workers in the formal sector.
The ILO, I think 3 years ago, did an assessment of the SNI scheme, and they considered it to be unsustainable beyond 2036. Our assessment suggests that it is actually going to be sooner than 2036. And SNIT is the first pillar of income protection for retirees. So something ought to be done. When the pensions reform started in 2010, government was supposed to set up retirement benefit bond to absorb the past credits, which means that the liability for paying the pension that had been accrued to the lump sum was not supposed to be on SNET. It was supposed to be on the sponsor of the scheme. That wasn't done. So we are suggesting that government should take up that liability.
Efriye Owari is Chief Executive of Axis Pension Trust. This is still Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck. I'll start to some other stories. Ghana's infrastructure drive under the government's Big Push agenda has received a major boost as GCB Bank PLC finances and officially hands over more than 200 heavy-duty machines and equipment to Timeline Innovations Company Limited. The investment, expected to create hundreds of jobs and strengthen local contractors, is being described as a major step toward accelerating road construction and infrastructure development across the country.
Over 200 heavy-duty machines and equipment has been officially handed over to Timeline Innovations Company Limited in support of Ghana's Big Push agenda. The equipment financed by GCB Bank includes excavators, bulldozers, graders, tipper trucks, tractors, rollers, and